You're listening to the Real Estate Radio Hour, the show that brings you unfiltered stories and insight from the Twin Cities real estate world with your hosts, Chris Rooney, broker at RE/MAX Preferred, and Andy Presky, leader of the Preferred Home Team at RE/MAX Advantage Plus.
Is this the clap button?
Now that sounds like a deal.
Whoa.
What do you know? This is the one. Thank you. Yes. Right over here. Thank you.
Okay, ready?
Okay.
It is recording, by the way.
I know. Well, I just did all the applause.
Give two egomaniacs a camera and a podcast, and this is what happens.
I'll tell you what. We're at RE/MAX Advantage Plus. They have this pretty freaking cool setup. We're almost at. Oh, I got to talk into this thing. We're almost at 2 cameras as well, so we're going to be able to get headshots directly rather than keep going like this.
Yeah,
it's coming.
Well, you know, the thing is that I think it's important just to get good messages out. Again, this is the whole point of the show, is for the two of us to, kind of come along. What's going on here? Speaking of love letters,
they don't even know that's our topic yet.
Yeah. No. So I think here's what we should do.
Okay.
Kind of going forward, you guys, we appreciate your feedback. We're trying to look at the camera, but not always avoiding each other, but we're figuring it out.
Yeah.
So
We're working it.
Yeah. All right. So did
this all start because I just didn't want to do it every single Thursday morning?
I believe so.
And now we got stuck doing this. So yeah, this is kind of fun.
Yeah.
All right.
Sure is.
It's so fun. Andy still does some live gigs on Thursdays. So.
Yeah.
All right. So we're going to talk a little bit about what people call love letters.
Okay.
So why don't you explain what a love letter is?
Okay. So a love letter, for those of you thinking about, this is when you're writing an offer to buy a property. And a lot of times this happens during competitive marketplaces where there's more than one offer coming in and you're really trying to sell yourself as a buyer. So beyond doing all of the checking the boxes of, having your approvals done and having the purchase agreement filled out and having the great terms that you may want in your offer, you also include a letter that tells them a little bit about you in an effort to get them to, let's say, like you or sway towards you. And so that's really the sole purpose of it, because everything else is very, in my opinion, black and white and contract driven. Other than that, the love letter is
A little more personal.
to hit their heartstrings a little bit, right? So I don't think that a love letter is a bad thing in every situation, but I do think that what can happen is with a love letter, it's going to be the person that doesn't get the contract that's going to come back and say, hey, you didn't like this in my love letter, and that's why you didn't pick my offer, and so we want you to pay. That's all I try to avoid. If somebody really wants to read a love letter as a seller, I'll read the love letter and I'll let them know that this will sway your opinion one way or the other. And do you want me to read it to you? And
I think
Yeah.
even the title of what we call a love letter, I think that's what's wrong about it. I don't think it could be a letter from the buyer to the seller, explain it like who they are. And I think that's super important from a standpoint of, because we've done it. People ask me all the time when we're writing offers, they're like, hey, can we include a letter from your buyer? I say, you can do whatever you want.
Yeah.
I mean, it's up to you. I mean, whether the seller reads it or not is up to them as well. But what I like to do on there is turn it from more of a love letter and, we love your pillows and, your decorations are so nice, and trying to kind of sweet talk them. And it's like, your decorating's amazing, and turn it more into a situation where it's like, you know what? I've been working at Target Corporation for now 7 years. I have a credit rating of 734, and I've owned houses in the past. Just something to be able to like get that seller feeling like, you know what, this is more likely to close than the other thing. Than that they have a dog named Poncho, and I
Right.
think some people go just a little too far on that end, and when you do, then it starts getting to that fair housing stuff.
Well, 90% of the love letters I get have a picture on them.
Yeah.
Picture of the family,
Right.
picture with their dog, with their cat, with their, their fish, whatever they,
Yeah.
whatever kind of sway they think will help. And they talk about the community. They talk about everything they're kind of not supposed to make a connection. What they're really essentially doing is trying to make a connection with that seller.
Yeah,
And
true.
so that they're not just another offer, they're actually a offer with a person behind it that actually wants that property, loves it. And like you said, if a love letter or a letter to the seller is used in a way to sell yourself as a buyer without any of the protected classes involved, and I mean that, that's just the way it's been. So
Yeah.
I think it's okay. On the other hand, like I said earlier, I do have it where my clients, I will ask them, "Hey, I've got a love letter here from this offer. Do you want me to read it?" Because I don't read them unless they tell me
I
to.
think that's the other question is, are they even effective?
Mhm.
Because a lot of times the sellers don't even care. I
Right.
mean, in the end, hey, I just want more money. I think I've seen it a few times where it's kind of like, oh boy, they're really nice, and maybe there's two that were really close, and they went with that. But I think the other part is that people are saying, oh, they're protected classes, and yeah, that's
Yeah.
true, that's true. But it's also assuming that we're thinking from a racist point of view, and we're not. And
Well, not
so
race,
to me,
sex,
it's
religion,
yeah,
marital status. I
yeah,
mean, it's sexual preference. All that
right.
stuff is protected. And so I think the thing that it's really what it comes down to is
But don't you
this.
think you can find that on social media anyways? So all
Maybe.
my clients go right on there and try to find the people that are not only, selling the house, but that are buying it. They look them up anyways. And so they're
Yeah.
getting that information anyways, and they're probably getting 700 photos instead.
Yeah, but your seller doesn't get sued over it.
Right. I mean, that's
Right. I mean, if your
possible.
seller does their own research,
Unless they
that's up to
researched it and they can say, you know what, we caught them on my LinkedIn page, because I can do that. I mean, it can, but I just
Yeah.
think it's kind of you just got to be careful and just don't be stupid about it.
Yeah, I just think that the love letters, I'm gonna lift my mic up. I just can't stand
Yeah.
sitting. The love letters are really, in my opinion, giving some a buyer the ammunition to come back after a seller to say that something was not done correctly. That's the only
There's a
thing. So
point.
that's the only point that I really make with it. I don't, to be honest with you, America's awesome, and there's lots of different people of all different, backgrounds and interests and
Right.
family statuses and everything that buy houses every day, and nobody really cares, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
The problem is that it's when that buyer feels that there was objection to their letter, and it's like, that's like I said, why would I accept it if the only thing you could do with it is come after me for it? So
I think I get a little more uptight. Been doing it for 34 years.
yeah,
Never had a violation of any Fair Housing Act in my life. I don't even think that way. And so
Yeah.
it's kind of like, it's just gets so crazy.
Yeah.
Everything that.
well,
just
you and
constant.
I are like the same guy. We want less regulation. We want more freedom to make decisions. We want and I understand that, but anyway, it comes down to where here's the deal: the government is involved in housing, right? And it is, and
A lot.
so a lot, and so what are you going to do about it?
Yeah. And you know what? I suppose for some people you have to do it because it doesn't, they're not following the rules. So
Right.
there's obviously a reason that it got kind of thrown in there. And it's probably the reasons we have better interest rates and better programs too, because,
Yep.
they're able to do all these things. So
I agree.
I just don't think it should be, it should stop someone from doing it and or reading it. And I think it's up to those people. So that's what I say.
Where's your applause?
How's my thing? Right here.
Yeah, we got to stop.
This is going to
that.
be really fun. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Is that our segment?
Yeah, it sure can be.
All right. So I have to go do. I was just 1 year old when my family started in real estate, where both my parents were agents. They also dabbled in investing in real estate, rentals, flips, and construction. After college, I went right into getting my license in July of 1990. As a 23-year-old agent in an industry that looks nothing like today, I had to know more for my clients to choose me. There wasn't Zillow or social media to tell them how good I was. I had to win them over with knowledge. With knowledge comes confidence, and with confidence comes results. I found Jesus. Nick will just screw us with little outtakes and stuff for sure.
Whoa.
Well, I'll just tell you what, the fanfare's been amazing.
Yeah.
At this studio today. It's just crazy.
You know, we're gonna decide real quick. I think once we put these out there that we either love that button or we hate those buttons.
I know exactly. So,
Yeah.
Wah, wah, bad advice.
oh my God, who's that? Okay. Anyways,
Oh,
here's a little thing that this will come out during, and it's called the Parade of Homes.
Yeah.
The spring preview.
Yeah.
Which Chris Rooney doesn't have to do for the second time in a row.
Whoa. How is that?
Just because we don't do models.
I thought you guys were dream home guys.
We were.
Yeah.
You know, but it doesn't. Whatever.
It costs
It's,
a lot of
you-
money and it's a lot of effort and it's a lot of to ask, especially if you have a
I think it's a business type decision though too.
yeah.
Just because I mean we're able to get them in other homes and stuff like that, which I think is a huge thing. If you can, from a builder standpoint, if you can get them into people that you've built for
Yeah.
already, people are going to be like, "Oh my gosh, they must
Yeah.
have liked them." So I kind of like that idea. But anyways,
I always find it interesting though. I was just down at the now they call it the Up North Expo and talking to different home builders that are there. And it's interesting how up north, a lot of them take that same strategy. They don't have model homes. They don't necessarily do any kind of
what
a
do you
home
mean?
show
Would you say up north?
like Brainerd,
Okay,
Alexandria. Alexandria has the Viking Land Area Builders Association, and they do a show in May, which is coming up here. But there's I think 30 builders in that area in that association, but only like 6 or 7 will participate.
Oh, really?
Yep. And a lot of it's timing, and a lot of them don't have the overhead of a model home.
Sure.
Like, like we do here in the cities where you have 50 lots in front of you, you put up 2 different models, you have a sales center, and you sell the inventory. And it's just a different style where you come in and say, your friend says, "Oh, you should build, this builder." "Oh, really? Introduce me to him." And then you have to go out and look at private property, and it's a different
Yeah,
process.
that kind of gives me an idea. I mean, from a builder standpoint,
Yeah.
why wouldn't you maybe just spend a ton of money on quality, not even photography, but just more that you can bring people through the home and experience it. And maybe it's more the platform that you're putting it on
Yep.
versus the actual pictures, but that you can experience it kind of in a virtual way.
Sure.
And I think that would be super cool and and different. And then be able to go to your customers and say, you know what, we're gonna go through this house and we're gonna show them this house. Once you kind of get them interested in your whole process, spend a lot more money that way, because I mean, doing model homes is very expensive.
Yes.
There's a lot of holding costs on it. Typically you hold it longer, maybe for a year. And then after a year, then you start selling it. But most people want to build exactly what they want. So then they're not buying the model. And then all of a sudden the model is, you're dropping 50,000 on it just to get rid of it to move to the next one.
Well, and I've learned that over the years that in markets where we're dealing with hyperinflation, model homes are great because you bought it this year and you paid 700,000 for it, and by the time you get to it next year, it's 825. So you're actually making money holding them.
That's a good
But
point.
normally the interest rates, when interest rates go off at 3%, now they're up at 8-9% for a model home. If that builder has to borrow that money, that's a lot of money.
Yeah.
And so you're right. And so it comes down to
And builders
where-
don't like holding money.
no,
They
they
don't-
want to flip. That's
they
why you
wanna
always say,
go.
well, why do they keep
Gotta
moving their
move it.
models? Why do they
Yep.
keep moving the model? It comes down to a math equation where some builders will build a model or 2, and then they furnish those models, and then that's their sales center until they're out of that development. I also see builders where they literally build a new model every 6 months or whatever, and they keep trying to flip them and keep moving them and keep them turning. And
So it's
that's
kind
to
of
keep
a
it fresh.
pseudo spec model. Yeah. We're
Yeah.
going to use it for a model for a little while. There's a lot of things on the MLS that you'll see that says, hey, it's a model and it's not for sale.
Right.
And maybe it's a really good seller and they're making money off of it.
Yep.
But like you said too, typically on models, they're also getting deals from the subcontractors,
Right.
because the subcontractors know that, hey, if they got a model, they're going to be selling more properties. I'm going to get more business.
Sure.
So your appliances are usually a better deal and blah, blah, blah. So they have some fixed in, profit margins or hedge in their losses.
Mhm. Well, and I also look at it too, that when a builder holds a model too long, the impression with the MLS, that's where, I got to be honest with you, the multiple listing service can work against a builder because they want it to be active. So people come to show it and do showings on it. They want people to, be interactive with it. Some people will not show a model home because they're like, oh, we don't want to do a model. We only want to show what we can, we only want to hunt what we can shoot. And you know what I mean? And so there's that mentality. So I think you see quite a variety of different reasons.
Wah, wah, bad advice.
Dang it, wrong one. I had to do this one. No, not that one. Hold on. There it was. There it was. That was your analogy one. There. I gotta remember it. Blue. Nick will appreciate that.
Yeah, I'm sure he will not. He'll edit all that out, I hope. But so, you kind of get into that situation too, where then the styles of the models, the carpet styles, the colors, things change, man. I mean, we went through a phase where all of a sudden everything was white, and then we started getting back into natural wood colors. Well, now we're starting to see almost like pickled wood again, which sounds crazy to say. That makes me sound old.
Yeah.
But they're doing like these whitewash kind of like clear islands with oak, and we're doing painted base cabinets on the other side, and we're doing white on the tops, and that wasn't 3 years ago. So
Right.
That's where I think it's an advantage of a builder to keep turning it so that you can keep showcasing what's hot.
From blues to greens to, just different colors. It's crazy.
Right.
It's crazy what they keep doing.
Sure.
So, why don't we talk about maybe the steps of getting a new home?
Okay.
I think it's important. With interest rates now too, that's a
Big time.
a big thing. The rates have been flopping around again. And I just gotta believe that the rates are going to go down during an election year. They just always have. So you think they do, but gosh, we were hovering around 6.25 at one point. And now we're over 7 again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's kind of like,
Well, and what's frustrating is if you've budgeted your build job on 600,000 and now the rates creep up to 7, and all of a sudden your payments another $350 a month more or whatever it is. So, depending on how much you're borrowing, but in theory, what I would say about this is that when it comes down to getting pre-qualified, there's a couple of cool things about building new houses. And one of the things you'll realize is, as an existing listing agent, I do that as well. I see all the time where people will prefer a new build over top of the existing house strictly because of a couple things. It's brand new, everything's under warranty, and the builder bought the interest rate down, so it's actually a lower payment on that new build than it is on your existing house. And I struggled with this with a couple townhouses. So what is kind of interesting is that if you're a buyer, and this is something that I guide people on too, is I'm like, if you're a buyer, let's say in a big housing development, and that housing development's going to keep building for the next, 5-6 years, and all of a sudden they keep playing these games with interest rates. Now, builders won't do that when they don't have to. They'd rather keep the money for themselves, but right now they're still offering it.
They don't like to pay realtors when they don't have to either.
Correct. Yeah.
Then when it's
that's
time,
a whole nother.
then they incentivize them.
Yep. Well, and that's some of these bigger Wall Street builders. My goodness, they were down to 2%, I think, last summer, when they were, and that's just crazy. But anyway, the point of all of that is that, so with building, sometimes that pre-qualification is important, but more importantly is, like, I'd say, before you even meet with a builder, I would really recommend you go there and take a look at, based on current rates today, and even maybe sandbag it a little bit. What are you comfortable with for a payment? And then you walk into that builder and say, in this development, can you build this house in this price range with the features I want? And most of the time they'll say, sure, because they want to get you to sit down and talk about it. And they know eventually that the numbers will go up. And the lenders, who's working with them will say, yep, we can make these numbers work for you kids.
Right.
And all of a sudden you're spending 50,000 or 100,000 more than you wanted to, just because it's I don't want to say it's rigged, but it's kind of set up that way to be. New is
bait and switch a little.
I don't know if it's bait and switch as much as it is. You don't want to freak people out the second they walk in. Just like when you go buy your new truck or you buy your new Tesla or whatever you want to buy, you go into the dealership. If they said, hey, this car's 110,000, most people would freak out. And then you say your payment's going to be $2,300 a month, and they freak out and they go, oh, and it's for 10 years. And then they freak out again. And it's like, now you don't have a buyer. Versus, let's do the test drive first. Let's get you in there. Let's see if you like it. It's kind of a reverse psychology, right? They get you in there. Wouldn't this be nice? What kind of an image would this, project for you as a businessman driving this car versus, or, whatever, businesswoman. And you
one more sale a year, Chris.
Yeah.
All you need is one more sale.
Yeah. What'll it do for you and your family? Can you imagine having your gatherings here? So when you go into some of these, especially and God bless them, they're trained really well. When you walk into I call them Wall Street builder or a national builder's doors, those people are trained like timeshare salesmen to unpeel that onion and get you comfortable. I can't stress more than anything, before not only knowing what your budget is, but I would go in that door with somebody to protect you. And I mean that in a good way. Not that they would intentionally do anything to harm you, but what'll happen is when you have a real estate agent representing you, they walk at a pace that lets you make decisions that you can't do. They'll let you take the decisions in a process where it's good for you, it's good for your family, it's smart for you, it hits your budget, the timelines work, there's no surprises.
Mhm.
And I think in my opinion, especially with that kind of a sale, I think that everybody should be represented with new construction.
Yeah, I've heard that more and more now that because there's some of them that'll say, "Hey, if we don't have another realtor, you'll be able to save money," and it just always turns into a disaster. Because I think what you need to understand when you're building is that it's great as you're talking and saying, "You know what? Oh, it would really be cool to go with those solid panel doors instead." Okay, well, yeah, we can do that. It's 150 more a door times 30 doors. So what 40? I mean, it
Yeah.
just keeps going crazy.
Right.
$4,500 for that, and then it's like, well, as long as you're doing the doors, maybe you should do the higher trim profile. And if we're going to do the trim profile on wood floors, we might want to be able to shoe everything. And then as long as we're doing that, we might want to look at some crown molding, and you can start just adding on, adding on, adding on, and then all of a sudden, what you're qualified for, your budget's wasted, and you're in a house that you're going to probably have to get rid of right away.
Yeah. It happens. And I don't think it's always by design, but I think that there's some builders I've worked with and currently work with right now have quoted prices where they're giving you a landed price. It has no allowance because you don't need it, because that is
Which is good.
this
That's good.
widget's included.
Yeah.
Those light switches are included. Those cabinets you see are
The
included.
less allowances, the better.
I've
That's
said I've never built a house for somebody where it was custom where the allowances hit perfect. I've never had it
Right.
happen.
No. And you want an ice maker? Why would you want an ice maker in a $900,000 house?
Because the model had one, Chris.
Oh, that's right.
Oh, but
Well,
that
the
was an
model
option.
doesn't count. Yeah, that's an option.
That's an option.
That's an
The
add-on.
vendor gave it to us for free. That's why we forgot to mention it was an option.
Yeah.
See, that's where some of those little things like that, like I ask those kind of questions very specifically. What I see right here, is this included with these feature levels, with this finish level? As we see it, it's $785. And a lot of times you'll have this town, we had one, I remember this was a few years back, but we had a detached townhouse that we were looking at, and outside the sign said from 400.
Yeah.
And by the time we went through that house, looked at all the options, I looked right at the salesperson and I said, if you'd option this house out and give us all of these options that we're seeing right here,
Mhm.
I go, how much in options do we have here? It was $270,000
Oh
worth
my
of options.
God. So from 400 to 670.
Yep.
Wow.
Just like that. But now they said not everybody goes overboard. The model's overboard. You don't need to do everything that's in the model, but what you should do is probably take a look at what's important to you.
Right.
And then they get into that. They're trained, man. But I think that's a
How
good
do you
thing too.
compare builders? I mean, how do you compare them? Because you can play around with this price per square foot crap, which
Yep.
doesn't. It depends what you put in it.
Well,
you know?
let me respond to that. I think that when you play the per square foot number, what's going to happen is you're buying a house that has the lowest, usually hanging fruit, the easiest price, the nicest looking at the lowest price materials they can get their hands on. So does that mean that the siding is going to start looking chalky after about 3 years? Yes. Does it mean that the first hailstorm that goes by with pea-sized hail, you're going to have chunks all over your yard? Yes. Does it mean that the trim is the aluminum's a little thinner, the trim's yes, yes, and yes. I mean, so everything in that house is the cheapest. It's not going to last as long. You're not going to get, unless you get lucky, you're not going to get as much value out of a house that is the lowest priced house per square foot. And that a lot of that is judged on the exterior of the home. But I'll tell you what, even on the interior of the home, when you go into some of these houses where, they make a really pretty cabinet, but when you actually grab the cabinet door wiggles a little bit and it's kind of tinny, and you shut it and you go, okay, how many shuts is that going to have before I have to replace that door? And the cabinets start falling apart and the seams pull apart and the crack on it, it wasn't sprayed with, it's not enameled. It was actually just painted with, a powder coat. There's a lot of those things that I say trained eyes need to see, because pretty doesn't mean quality.
Yeah.
Even though a lot of people think that. That's why those builders spend so many thousands. I mean, they spend $15,000, $20,000 per house on staging so that you fall in love with the way the house makes you feel, not on the actual house. Other builders will have a beautiful house, but they don't have it staged, and then they struggle because people can't visualize what's supposed to be there. So
Right.
it's an ongoing battle, I think. But
And there's the old builder versus realtor versus designer versus architect versus development battle that happens all the time too, because there's some builders that say, you know what, we have to have these windows. They're the best windows, and I'll stand by them, and they're the greatest thing ever. Well, you just spent 10,000 more on your windows than the guy next door,
Yep.
and he put in granite countertops, and you think Formica's better. And then what are those people like? So there's that too. I mean, 'cause
Right.
people aren't that I, don't- I guess the word is sophisticated or know enough to be able to do it. So I think going back to what that whole agent part is very important.
Well, and I think that you're successful. Obviously, you're out looking at new houses. You must have something in your career that makes you very successful at what you do. So you're focused on that. You're focused on your family. The thing that comes down to it is that of course you could spend the time and spend 6 months to a year researching and probably become an expert on housing yourself as well. But what are you giving up to do that? And so what I always say is a real estate agent that's out there going to help you. Are they going to bundle something together? Like this is one of the things that I think a lot of people don't understand is that the builders don't always pay out the same commissions. The selling of your house doesn't always get sold at the same price. And there's so many variables that are in there. So if you hire somebody to protect your equity in your existing house, for example, so let's say that you have a house that you think is worth 400 and they get 420,000 for the house. Their commission is basically free. The transaction's smooth. It times everything with the new build. It's easy versus trying to sell it yourself and you list it at 400 because you don't know any better. And all of a sudden you get a lowball offer, somebody saying, hey, you didn't pay a commission out. So the first thing we're going to do is come down 12,000 on price. We want to do an inspection. After the inspection, else, and you sell for, let's say 375. Now you're talking about a $45,000 difference in price. And that agent would have paid for themselves,
Many
easily.
times over.
And when it comes to new stuff, I think there's a lot of times where I see new people buying houses and they moving into the house. And in the spring they go, well, when does the landscaping go in? And they say, well, you didn't get landscaping. That's a $15,000 option that you didn't get on this model because you bought it in the winter and it's dirt
At the least.
at the least.
And 50,000 goes really fast in landscaping. I did want to say something about square footage
Yeah.
too. I think square footage obviously equates to that it's bigger, but it might not be better from a standpoint of how it flows and how they use their square footage. Because I think a lot of people don't use their square footage very well from like walking paths and how a house lives.
Yep.
And so there's sometimes you can get a house that we've all seen it. All of a sudden it says this is only 3,200 square feet. I mean, it looks way bigger than that because the one you were just at was 4,000. It's like they're kind of the same, but that happens because they waste space
Mhm.
and they don't utilize it good from walking patterns, and doubling up patterns. You see it in a great room a lot of times. Like you can't. I mean, you got to be able to walk behind. You got to be able to walk to the side.
Yep.
You got to be able to walk in the front. Kind of get to everything, and if you can kind of more centralize that walking pattern where you go in and you just enter from one side, versus taking up all that stuff because now you got to have a monster great room to be able to fit all that furniture that you wanted.
Right.
And so it's kind of a waste of money. So,
No, that's good advice. I think that what a lot of times when I'm talking on behalf of my clients to builders, I'll say, what are your more popular plans and why? And just for that, learning how my customer lives, learning what they're looking for in their new house, and actually trying to help them navigate through that process is it's pretty crazy sometimes. And so the idea there is that I love just to be crystal clear, I love real estate agents when I have a new build that's up for sale and they'll actually call me and they'll say, hey, this is what I got for a client. They're looking for this, this, and this. What do you got? How do I help you? And so they're truly researching for that client ahead of time. They're not just trying to make a sale. They're trying to actually help their client find their new home. I'll spend the extra time on my side of things to say, hey, here's a couple addresses I want you to go drive by or go tour. They're under construction or they're almost finished. I think I want them to get a feel for this floor plan. I think they'll really love based on what you've told me, I think they'll love this house. And those people always end up being our happiest customers. The ones that have the process done correctly. There's no pressure. There's no nothing. They come in, they are spending the time to understand what the house is, the quality level that's there, what they're getting for their money, what to anticipate with closings. And I think that that goes so far. And anyway, long story short, I really believe that new construction is, I've seen people sell their houses on their own successfully. I've seen even some people even buy a house successfully on their own. Um, Timing's everything, but the price and the terms and the quality and everything else that go into new construction are so different. I don't know. I'm just kind of going to push back on the agent. You need to have an agent when you buy something new. I think you're crazy not to. And I'm not saying that just because I want the commission. I'm saying that because there's so many things that you're not going to think about necessarily unless you've got unusually high experience levels. But you can probably make more money spending the time researching, doing what you do best that makes you the money anyway,
Right.
than to spend the time trying to become a realtor.
I'm with you. I'm with you. So spring preview this year runs from March 8th through April 7th.
Oh, that's cool.
That's a full month. You're gonna be stuck. Looks like you're getting Easter off though.
Yeah, they
March 31st,
yeah, well,
12 to
they
6.
changed the hours too. So it's we're doing Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays. No Thursdays.
Oh, you're kidding. Oh, I didn't know that.
Mhm.
Well, that's nice.
Very nice. Yeah.
Because Thursday was a worthless. And I think people were probably complaining about that.
They were. Nobody would show up, and it was hard to man the models, and it was crazy hours from noon to 6. Fridays, Saturdays, even Sundays, sometimes a lot of times, no offense, are pretty slow on those days when we're really busy on Friday nights, Saturdays, and depends on how people spend their time. If they're going somewhere for the weekend, they want to get out on Friday. So the weekend, people go on Fridays, and then the people that are around on the weekend like to go on Saturdays, knock it out. But lot of cool houses this year. Lots of I know they redid the website and everything too, so it's a little easier to navigate. So you can set up your tour, pick your houses, and kind of follow a predetermined path, which is kind of cool. You can search by builders, and then I know a couple of the builders that we're working with are actually having events. So like they're having like crumble cookie days, and they're having like because they couldn't do wine and cheese. Apparently that's a problem.
Everyone's trying to do something a little different.
Yep.
Kind of try to stand out.
Grab your attention and bring you in.
Yeah, I think this is kind of interesting. I was just looking at this site. They're saying there's remodeled homes in the Parade of Homes spring preview.
Well, it's the remodeler showcase. That's the last week of the parade.
So it's still that's the same.
Mhm.
Okay, good. Okay.
Yep.
Because I was thinking they were holding open during the whole thing. I'm like, what? I've never seen that before either. So
Yeah.
I think that's a really good thing. I think Thursdays was a really waste of time. I mean, you would get some people, and it would be kind of friends taking that time to kind of get together, and we can
Yeah.
whip through them all, and
Lot of
not
girls,
have
packs of
everyone around.
women
Yeah.
together having
Yeah,
fun.
exactly.
Yeah. I think though, the other thing is that if you really want to see a house on a Tuesday, all you have to do is call the sign, and that person will gladly show up and say, "Come on in. The house is all yours. Nobody's here to bug you. Ask any questions."
How many do you
have."
guys have?
We have 10.
There's 10 model homes.
Yeah.
Wow. You don't have to set all those up, do you? Are they all yours, or is that all of Eternity Homes?
Yeah, I'm doing my team has 4 of the models. Yeah.
Yeah. And when a spring market happens too, people have to realize, I mean, we're doing other things as well.
Yeah.
We're trying to go look at other houses. And so, like you said, Faye, for the next 6 weeks, I'm stuck because not only you're sitting in models every Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, but you're working before and you're working after kind of on your normal business.
A lot of the estimating and bidding is done Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and then you usually, take a day or so and relax. But the thing is that it's kind of like a farmer. Farmers don't care. They'll eat their lunch right on their lap in their tractor in the fall or the spring. And I do the same thing. So it's more about getting the clients when they want the attention and getting them the information that they need when they want it and in a timely fashion. And
So from the bid process, how many people that go into bid process, first of all, how many other builders are they doing that with? And then what's the probability of getting them once they start in that bid process?
those are some good questions. I think in the old days, we used to have a much higher percentage when people would get to the point of where they went to bid, to actually bid out a house on a certain lot. They were, I would say 50% would buy
That you get.
that would actually buy the house. Yeah.
Hmm.
And then nowadays it's much lower. It's probably 10% because I think you see a lot of people that just don't have a clue. And the way we set the consumer up to process information is, the model that we have on that lot, there's variables there. It's not, the cookie cutter. Again, going back, the national builders make that easier because they'll say, this is what you get, but there's no changes.
Right.
Pick the one you want. You can still pick the colors, maybe not. We're taking somebody saying you get to pick everything. So it's a little bit more of a commitment on our part, but we're also pushing that because we know that easy works. A lot of people out of convenience will just buy another National Builder's house because it's easy, it's available, it's close enough, and they don't want to deal with it. New construction can be tedious, it can be long. So we a lot of times I think now are pushing the bid process earlier in the sequence of events in an effort to get people to say, see, you can do everything you want for $13,000 more than the one down the street.
Yeah. Do you think also that maybe more people are doing the bids because it's easier to do? I mean, everybody's got it so set up now. I mean, when you go through it, you're basically, hey, which one do you want? 1, 2, or 3? And then you kind of put it together, and then all of a sudden you get to a point, and maybe it's like, you know what? This came out at $627,000. Well, we really don't want to be over 575. All right, well, let's go look it through and let's kind of take out some stuff, and you can kind of do it a lot quicker. And I think, where before it used to be just a horrendous process to try to be able to get people to through that bid process and get them a price.
Sure.
Now everyone's worked so hard together to be able to get, you're down to the freaking pennies.
Well, it used to be, back in the day, I mean, if I would take, 10 square feet off this room, we'd add it on the other side, or we give a credit for 10 square feet. Nowadays, it's like, hey, if it doesn't fit on the lot, we got to pull that in 10 square feet. There's no credit because it probably costs us more now to change the plan, remodify, re-engineer, redo whatever. But we'll make that change for you, but we can't give you a credit. And so all of a sudden it's like that is builders have had to stop being, kind of yes people. And they've had to adapt to more of a, hey, you're getting to make all these selections, but there's limitations to how many selections we can have you make. Or you just go completely, let's go meet with an architect. Let's have the builder build everything to the way we designed it. And then you're going to pay $100,000 more for that house just because there's so many variables that the builders can't cover.
I think what would be interesting too is if you kind of did a walkthrough of all the different builders and who's sitting in these properties, and to be able to get that answer kind of ahead of time, like what you're doing. So, hey, if we have to move that 10 feet in, a novice would say, well, 10 feet times $200 a square foot, you just saved, whatever,
right?
$2,000, whatever.
Yep.
You got that back, but it's kind of like, but no, you got to have the architect you got to change it, that might cause maybe it's only 1 foot that you have to move it in. And now, you're off on, your 2x4s and your spacing. And there's a lot of different things that go into those calculations, but where you lose a buyer is when all of a sudden you surprise them later on.
Yeah.
So let's just say that you have this one agent that's sitting there saying, oh yeah, no, we'll get that off for you. No problem. Then all of a sudden Andy now meets with them and kind of goes through all this stuff and says, well, no, this is what we have to do. It's just so much better to be able to have that information right from the start.
So, hey guys, Andy Prasky with RE/MAX and the Preferred Home Team. If your house didn't sell before the listing expired, you probably are feeling a little frustrated, and I understand. It's a hard spot to be in. Let me run down a few options for you. When your house hasn't sold, you can take it off the market completely, sell it yourself, or work with an agent to relist it. If this is a bit overwhelming, here's what I'll tell you. There's probably a reason you wanted to move, so deciding you're not going to move isn't really putting your needs first. And while you can try to sell it yourself, it's an involved process, and if you're already stressed because it didn't sell the first time, taking on the pressure of selling it on your own may be more than you want to tackle. Option 3 is to relist it. Now, I know you didn't have a great experience, and I want to change that. I'm here to listen and offer advice. Let's connect so that you can have a partner who can help you make a plan to help you make your next real estate move. Call me Andy P. I'd love to help you on your real estate journey today. Have you ever heard of the term silver tsunami? It's the idea that baby boomers, as they get older, will all start to downsize at the same time and really impact the housing market. But is it really going to happen? Here's what I can tell you. This graph shows 60% of adults who are 65 and up plan to stay put and live in their house as they get older. That would mean a lot of baby boomers aren't planning on moving and want to age in place. And the ones who will move aren't going to do it all at the same time. So don't worry just because you're hearing about this online. It's not going to be a big wave where everyone in this generation moves at the same time. It'll happen slowly over the years. If you have any questions about what you're hearing on the housing market, I can help. I'm Andy P. Give me a call. I'd love to help you on your housing journey today. So what I've done in the past with my individual agents that are in the models, I'll say, give me your top 10 questions after the first weekend of the parade, and then we'll say like, can we do
The
this?
questions you're getting from the clientele.
Yeah. Like let's,
And paint colors. 'Cause
right.
Everyone asks that.
Yeah. Let's switch the very common is how much is this to do this whole room hardwood? So we don't want to have the carpet. We want to have, hardwood floors go from the dining right through the family room. And so I bet it out and I go, it's $2,800. I go, write that down. So when they ask you, you're kind of queued up and ready. So you know enough to be dangerous, but you don't know too much to where you're going to turn them down. How much for a 4-season porch? $58,000 for a 12 by 14. That's going to have this many windows, this many. It's vaulted. It's got a cedar roof on it, whatever. And so what I do is I
Is
start.
that what it is now?
Oh yeah.
Wow.
4-season
I know
porches.
a deck is crazy.
A lot of my decks nowadays, when we bid them out, they're, mid 20s to high 30s. And then you go 4-season porch and I can't usually get them done under 45,000 anymore. It's crazy. Well, the per square foot price of a 4-season porch exceeds that of the initial house. It's just more expensive. It's insulated on the bottom. It's on stilts. It's blah, blah, blah. It's, so depending on the city you're working with, the requirements to build that space are very particular to each city. But, I guess what it comes down to is that, people want information. I always tell my reps that are in those models that know enough to be dangerous, but you don't have to know everything. I'm a phone call away, but my people are so smart. They know their floor plans. They know what's being built around them. And all people want to do, they're gathering information. Hey, do you want to see a house just like this down the street? Walk down the street, show them the house, see if they like it. They don't like it. Because people do know what they do or don't like. When it's on paper, they have to guess and they have to kind of anticipate. But on the other hand, if it's not that, and they can actually physically go see it, that's probably the easiest.
Okay. So what advice are you giving people that are going through the parade of homes? What should they look for in a builder? What would be the thing that they should come and get a bid?
I think that, there's obviously the energy efficiencies of new houses are ridiculously crazy good, right? Everything's shiny brand new and under warranty. You get all the advantages of having, your house the first year be lot versus, new construction. You get that lot tax the first year, and usually
And there's
sometimes
homeowner or insurance benefits as well.
correct. Yep. And then there's that. I would say that, right now, here's what I'd say. Some people think that the market's going to crash and it's their gut instinct. And so what a lot of people say is, I just don't want to get stuck in a new house where it's going to be so high priced. And I said, I think that if the market starts getting softer, what's going to happen is it's going to be distressed properties in the different levels. It's not necessarily going to be new construction, but how can they? 4 out of 10 houses are paid for free and clear. Another 4 of the 10 houses have significant equity over 50%. So it's like, there's so much equity in the existing houses right now that I think what's going to happen is you're going to see some of the materials maybe soften on price like they did the last year, but you're seeing where labor rates are not coming down. Inflation hasn't really gone away. So go out to dinner. It's $110 for burgers and steaks and a couple beers. It's ridiculous.
At McDonald's.
Yeah. And I think a lot of people are starting to finally say, okay, wait a minute. And so when you look at inflation isn't going. So what I'm saying is, I don't think labor rates are going to come down, and labor rates are about 40% of the cost of a house when the equity and everything is correctly proportionate. So when you look at that, if that goes up even, let's say 3% a year, the house is going up 1.5%. So new construction, I don't think is ever going to have the opportunity to come down as it's being built. So
There's just something
at least not in the near future.
There's just something about having a new house though.
Well,
There's
and that's
benefits.
right. And that's what I tell everybody as well. I say, if you're looking at a 5-year play, you need to be very aware of what's happening around you. Make sure that you understand the market, make sure that you're liquid at all times. So that if you have to sell, you're always comparing yourself to the brand new model down the street. But if you're going to live there 20 years, it doesn't matter. Live there, own it. Just like a stock. If you're not going to sell the stock for 20 years, it doesn't matter what the value is today. It matters what it is in 20 years. So anyway, that's kind of my advice to people looking for new. Don't be afraid. Don't be afraid.
So what are we going again? It's this Saturday. Starts on Saturday, or does it start on Friday? It does start on the Friday though, because it always started on that Saturday before.
Yeah.
Wow. So all right, March 8th to April 7th. Fridays through Sundays except for March 31st, 12 to 6 p.m. Eastern time or Easter
eggs.
By the way, did you do Lent? Did you give up anything on Fridays?
Yeah. Yes, I did, Mom. It's
okay. Yeah. Well,
I fast on Fridays.
Oh, there they go again.
Thanks for joining us this week on the Real Estate Radio Hour. Don't forget to visit our website, realestateradiohour.com, where you can subscribe to the show on iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, or your preferred podcast listening app. If you enjoyed today's episode, we'd appreciate a rating on iTunes or sharing us with a friend. Until next time, stay awesome, Twin Cities.